Alright, so today's trading recap is for Thursday, February 2nd, 2023. I ended up taking two trades today. One was for 75% and the other one was for about 18%. I ended up finishing on my Robinhood 8% and then my Webull a little over 8%. So I took two trades and I was done for the day. Another A+ trading setup did present itself, which I did not end up taking because I stick to my rules. But there were some people who ended up taking it and getting 350%. Strand Oak. So I'm going to go through those, all three of those trades, and I'm going to go through how I drew my zones and my levels really quick. So the first thing I want to do, I'll put this into replay mode so we don't have the price action to use to be biased. So this is what we looked like in pre-market. You can see we had a clear pre-market high. If you want to mark pre-market low, which I somehow forgot to do, probably because I was in the office, but oh, no, I did do it. So that's pre-market low right there. And then those are your two key levels in the pre-market. Next thing you want to do is have your zones. So this zone right here was from yesterday high of day. Every zone above 410, which is where we are right now, we don't have price action for unless we go all the way back to August. So I actually went all the way back to August to draw these zones. You might think, August price action may not be valid, how many 7 months later, but I'll show you in fact it is. So let's get started with the price action. Right away, that you can see that we rejected pre-market high and then we pulled back and found support on VWAP in the 21 EMA. Again, we find support on the bottom of this demand zone, very clean bounce. We try and we bounce again. So this zone is showing some good support. And we actually eventually close under this zone. That is a bearish sign. And we get a bearish candle following that. But we're seeing a lot of buying pressure. So even though we're in a downward channel, you're seeing some really big wicks, which means we're getting some buying pressure. Usually, and the wicks are getting, the candles are getting more bullish, eventually leading to a hammer. And then we get this massive bullish engulfing candle. I really like this candle for a bullish setup because this was a huge bullish engulfing candle that covered almost the entire range of the day. We had a slight increase in volume. It blew through the top of this zone, the bottom of this zone, all three of my EMAs, and VWAP. The only thing that would concern me is that we did not actually close below this zone, or above this zone. So I would watch for a close above this zone and then also a close above pre-market high potentially, so we can get past those strong resistances. So we pull back to these EMAs, find some support, and then form this hammer candle. This is where something interesting comes into play. So I got an alert on the SMT indicator on the 3-minute time frame. So if you look on the right-hand side, I have alerts set up for the 3, the 5, and the 15-minute time frame. I got this alert and I really liked it, right? So we have everything I want. We have increasing buy volume, the bullish MACD crossover. We have a bull flag that just took us to the top of this zone. The only thing I'm concerned about is we're showing rejection signs at the top of the supply zone. So once I get confirmation, I will enter a play. And then this was my confirmation, and you can't get any better than this. So this is a huge bullish engulfing candle, massive increase in volume, MACD increasing histogram, and then we close above this zone, key level, and a pre-market high. So I entered calls here, and I was looking for ultimately the bottom of this zone as my next level, and that seemed very reasonable to me based on this huge momentum that we had and the size of that candle. So I entered calls there. We made our way up there, and we bounced, or we rejected perfectly off of this zone, followed by a slightly bearish candle, and that is where I took my profits at 75%. So let me show you that trade. I thought I had it pulled up. Maybe I don't. I think this is it, yeah. 76.25% on 416 calls. Okay, so at this point we start to, let me switch back to the 5-minute because after I'm done playing a different time frame, I switch back to the 5-minute. So, perfect rejection off of that zone. We're seeing some resistance there on that dark gray line. We end up pulling back below the 9. Okay, so we retest that zone and reject again. So we pull back again, find support. We close below the 21 EMA, so this is where it starts to look a little bearish. We're having some bear flag formations, we're having red MACD, we're having an increase in volume and selling relative to the buying. The only thing that I would wait for here is, with us being this close to VWAP and this key support, I would want this crossover to occur before I enter puts here, or a close below these two levels might be a good spot to enter puts. We have a huge reversal here. Increase in volume, so that's a good sign for continuation, but there's no reason for a call here. This is where I wanted calls, right? Because now I'm starting to like this, because that is a very strong candle after consolidation, making me think that we're going for more upside. I'm seeing a really ugly, it's a very ugly drawing, but there's a bull flag there. And so I enter calls there, and I'm just looking to scalp to this next resistance line right here. So that would be right there. That's my scalp target. And then I hop in calls there, and then we hit my scalp target, I get out, and then we pull back to the 21 EMA. So those were for like 16 or 17%. I want to see if I can find them here. So I actually called this one out, right? So I was like, maybe it's this one. I was not prepared today, guys. So I don't know what is happening. You know what? I'm not even gonna edit this out. I don't edit my videos. You're just gonna have to see this. Here we go. So this was the play I took. So there's a bull flag. Prior to that, I said I like SPY 5-minute chart. If this bull flag plays out, and then scaling calls, all out of calls, and then that's where I was up 2% on that account. So let's go back here. That was my second trade. I forgot to show you Robinhood, but ultimately after this trade as well, I was up 8.33% on my Robinhood, and then at the end of those two, I was up 8.77%, and then 44% on calls. And so I think those calls, there weren't that scalp. I think that was from back here. But anyway, so let's continue. So we reject that zone or that level, and then we find support on the 21. So at this point, this is, I think maybe I got tricked here. Yeah, so I really thought after this bullish engulfing candle, the MACD was ready to cross over. You know, I thought maybe since we closed in this zone, we could make a push to the top of that zone, but that did not happen. The only thing that I would see as a reason why that didn't happen is this red MACD, but of course, regardless of what you think, you know, I'm wrong at least 1 out of 5 times, so that's okay. Pullback, find support on the 21. This time, we at least have the green MACD increasing buy volume. I like this a lot. I said most likely we are going to hit this level right here, 417.81. I think this is actually where I took calls on my Webull, so I misspoke, because if you look at the timestamp, it's at 2 o'clock, and this was around 2 o'clock, yeah. So that's where I took calls. I was looking for the top of this zone as my first target, which we end up hitting. And then once we closed strongly above here, I was looking for a target up there. And then this happened. So we couldn't quite hit the bottom of that supply zone, but we had this really bearish candle. So that is this is a bearish engulfing candle with a top wick like that. Big increase in volume. I didn't like what that looked like, so I said I'm hopping out of calls, which could also mean if somebody else would say they're hopping into puts. So I think Strat hopped into puts here. And then this was kind of, that really confirmed it for me. That was a huge bearish engulfing candle on heavy volume, red MACD crossover. And then we started to bear flag. And I got an alert on my 3-minute here. So yeah, sell alert right there. That actually confirmed for me even further that this was a selling move here. And we just kind of continued to dump. So we bear flagged, dumped, closed below the VWAP and key level, bear flagged again, dumped. And we just, you know, kind of continue down. We did find some support initially here on this zone, and even tried to break through pre-market high. That's pre-market high, but we failed. And then just kept pushing down until ultimately we bounced off the 200 EMA, and I think that's where we reversed for the day. Pull back to this zone, find support, and then run up into close. So there's a recap, and hopefully you learned a thing or two, and you can kind of understand my trading style a little bit more.